CNN is facing criticism for airing the documentary Luther, Never Too Much, on New Year's Day, shortly after the terrorist attack in New Orleans. Critics argued that the network should have provided continuous coverage of the attack instead of broadcasting the pre-scheduled programming. And notably, Wall Street Journal editor-in-charge Gerald Baker and former CNN copy editor Tom Silo expressed their disapproval on social media, labeling the decision as disrespectful to the victims and their families. Now, the attack in New Orleans resulted in at least 15 deaths and 30 injuries when a pickup truck driver rammed into a crowd on Bourbon Street. That driver, identified as Samsud Din Jabbar, was fatally shot by police after he opened fire on officers responding to the incident. FBI is investigating the incident as an act of terrorism, and they have said that he is so far acting alone. We know that. President Biden, of course, gave his disdain for the attack and for that one, and of course, in Las Vegas as well. Also, the same day, it was essentially inspired by the Islamic State group, ISIS, but he doesn't have any real ties to them. He just inspired to do this dastardly act. Now, CNN has not actually said anything about the backlash yet, but this is something that me, as a person who was maybe the last big supporter of CNN, was kind of pissed off about. Now, granted, I was flipping around channels around that time, and as it got to about 30 minutes towards the time for this schedule, this overly hyped documentary, I'm sure it was great, but at the time it was going on, they were sort of winding things down about 30 minutes into it when they went wall-to-wall coverage, breaking into all the other stuff that they had that was pre-canned and pre-thought of to talk about this attack going forward. The other networks, News Nation, MSNBC, Fox News, those are the three primary ones I was going through with CNN. CNN was going through, and some MSNBC as well, going as forth with that one. And they were all continuing to cover. In fact, I was watching News Nation start their coverage at 7 o'clock my time, 8 o'clock Eastern, and then flipped to Fox for a few minutes when I was noticing the flashes in the previews. I was watching YouTube TV to watch it, that Luther was playing about 15 minutes into the stuff where I got back to CNN. And so I didn't turn back to CNN because they played the full documentary as expected. Now, this is one of my gripes with CNN. CNN is right now third of the big three. If you call News Nation as a slow fourth, News Nation is beating CNN in various demos at nighttime because of what it is. And while they had their spectacular New Year's Eve coverage, which was basically 24 hours of New Year's around the world, with correspondents all over the place prepping for a big grand finale of the year, going into this big grand start with Luther Vandross, of course, that all changed with some happenings. There was a lot more news happening rolling into New Year's Eve than expected, but they did cover a lot of that as best as possible. There was obviously a lot of news going in at about 3 in the morning local time in New Orleans when the first attack happened, and around 8:30 or so local time in Las Vegas when the Cybertruck blew up in front of Trump Tower. So they had plenty to cover. The coverage was, of course, as you expect. It was kind of all over the place. There was things back and forth. The ISIS flag was brought up early in things and had to be sort of pushed away and then brought back again because they didn't really know what was happening. But what we do know is that CNN had a chance to stick with what was going, what was working, breaking news coverage, what they brought them to the dance essentially, and be a part of what's going on and fight it back. What the other networks essentially get their flack from is breaking away from having canned coverage all the time. When CNN will go live with some random story and stick there forever, they'll break through all their Sunday night program. They'll break through not watching, have you heard the news stuff? They'll break through all the documentaries such as the 80s, the 90s, and all that stuff. But they hyped this one up so much that they had to play it live. I don't know if there were sponsorship issues with it. It was a part of the contract they had with getting the documentary on. But this is a decision that was the wrong one. Now, CNN is doing a lot of big-time documentaries. They will air the Superman documentary with Christopher Reeves, and also they have a Kobe Bryant documentary coming up before that one. I think Kobe is around the 29th or so of this month. Christopher Reeve will be somewhere middle February. If the contract is you must run this, you can't cut commercials, things like that, CNN has a problem because they had a chance to shine or continue to shine all day New Year's Day, and they basically axed that, shot themselves in both foot, and then of course shot themselves in the hand. And it's hard to use that sort of reference, but they literally did what they could do to ruin everything they worked all day long for, all weekend long for, all year long for, all reputation long for what they have. I'm sure the documentary is great. I'm sure it'd be wonderful when I watch it on streaming, on replay, and video on demand, and on replays forever and ever. Amen. But Wednesday night was not the night to do this. It just was not. The call that they made was wrong. Am I wrong? Am I hating on CNN when I actually love CNN? Am I hating on Luther? By God, no. But did they make the right call this Wednesday for New Year's Day when all the coverage was stuck on, even if there wasn't much going on that was actually of new note? No real new notations happened late in the evening until early in the mornings. Should they have stuck with it and, played with everybody else in the sandbox instead of going home and watching something on Xbox? Or I guess you don't watch an Xbox. You play on Xbox, I guess. What do you think? Give me your comments. Let me know what you think about Luther playing live, pre-taped, on New Year's night instead of doing actual news.